7 minutes to 8. Very good morning to you. Now, speculation is mounting over a change in policy determining the next rise in the state pension. During the summer, the Chancellor, Rishi Sunak, hinted that the government was prepared to break the triple lock, a manifesto promise governing state pension rises, owing to the unique situation the pandemic has caused. Well, now the Treasury Select Committee has stressed to the Chancellor that the triple lock is unsustainable in its current form.
Well, finance and city expert Andrew Sachs joins us now. Good to see you, Andrew. Thanks for joining us. Look, start, if you don't mind, first of all, by explaining exactly what the triple lock is expected to guarantee and why the Chancellor feels it's necessary, perhaps just on a temporary basis anyway, to meddle with it.
Yes, actually, it's quite surprising, isn't it? Well, maybe it's not so surprising given some of the policy changes that have happened over the last year or so by a supposedly Conservative government who are instigating things that are not really associated with conservatism, and this is one of them. The triple lock, as far as in short, is a system which it protects pensioners who are retired people on pensions from their pension devaluing according to price rises. That's effectively what it is. But it's one of those things which seems to have been talked about by Rishi Sunak over the last week or two as something which is likely to perhaps be instigated, which could disenfranchise some pensioners. And it's perhaps almost similar to the policy that's just being talked about just now about rising the tax to cover the healthcare deficit. You could potentially look at it as a similar type of policy. I think it will actually be met with some discourse, but it's a clever move by the government because in trying to, if let's say, for example, that they are trying to change the way of thinking and change the political landscape and the fiscal landscape of the country to some extent, by hitting retired people and with their income that they've already worked for, they don't really have much choice in changing, is a very unpleasant and clever move, because what you've got is a situation where older people could potentially, they don't have the ability to change their job and perhaps go and get a different salary. It's a fixed income, which is going to be like that for some time. So I think it's a clever move at hitting people who will not necessarily have much choice other than to take it.
Isn't it? It's much simpler than that, surely, because one of the aspects of the triple lock is average earnings. And people coming off furlough, they return to full pay. That knocks up average earnings beyond what was expected, and the Bank of England says it's now up to 8%. And that's why the government needs to stop it.
Well, yes. I mean, perhaps it is unsustainable. However, I don't think that is the real reason. I think it's a sanitized way of saying it's an unsustainable fiscal policy and the government needs to stop it. But I think personally it will lead to greater problems down the road if they do stop it. Because if you've got, for example, a retired population that makes up a certain percentage of that, and in these Western countries like the UK, it is a substantial percentage of the population, of the economically active population, shall we say. They are people who have got a disposable income and a regular monthly income. If you hit that demographic, the knock-on effect is that it will hit the retail sector, it will hit all kinds of other industry sectors in the UK, because that is a demographic that does have disposable income and does have cash. So I think it's a very problematic, it's short-sighted to say the least, I would say.
The reality, though, isn't it? I mean, it goes back to Simon's point. If they have an issue where the triple lock is ensuring pensions are set at this 8% due to wage inflation, it could cost the government £3 billion. And everybody knows that's not fiscal prudence. And that's what the Conservative Party is known for. So surely this makes perfect sense from a Conservative standpoint.
Well, they are known for fiscal conservatism in times gone by. But you have to really question whether Boris Johnson and Rishi Sunak are conservatives in the traditional sense. It's not necessarily, I don't think it's a clever disguise. This is just my opinion, of course, but it's a clever disguise to hit a traditionally conservative, money-saving demographic and make them slightly less well off, so that they have a little bit less prominence, and therefore you can change policy easier if you do that.
It always winds me up a bit because people have a go at pensioners and they're the ones with the money they've been saving all their lives. They've also been paying tax all their lives. You know, they have invested into the very pensions that you're now saying, well, the government's right to go for them at pensionable age.
Absolutely. I don't agree with them. Oh, no, don't get me wrong. I certainly don't agree with them going for people of pensionable age. I think those people they've earned their money, they've paid their taxes. You should leave them alone. There are quite a few Western countries that actually don't tax pensioners at all. They understand that you've earned your money, you've made your contribution, and that's your retirement. I think hitting pensioners is not the right, certainly not a popular or a good ethical thing to do by any means. I think it's problematic, and that's where I think there will be an alienation. I think that and also that age demographic is less likely to go and change towards voting for a newer type of party. They are conditioned to Labour, Conservative, and Liberal Democrat. So it's a demographic that you can hit, and they will still vote Conservative, for example, or Labour if they are Labour voters. But they won't go and say, "Oh, well, I'm not going to have this. This is not a Conservative policy. I'll vote for the Heritage Party," or something like that. That's more of it's too much of a change to make at a certain stage. But I think it's definitely not something which will be popular generally. And I think also those who are approaching retirement shouldn't be forgotten. If you're between 50 and 65 years old and you see this coming, there may be a sentiment of, where's this going now? Is it going to be, are we, as paying into pensions, as we prepare for retirement, are we going to be a demographic that the government is going to look towards being a cash cow? Will it cause people to divest and if they're quite wealthy, would they divest and put their money in a tax-free account in Switzerland or something like that instead?
Andrew, it's really good to talk to you. Andrew Sachs, thank you very much for joining us. Margaret's messaged us. Here we go again. Steal from the pensioners. The pension we get is pathetic enough as it is. We get no extra during the pandemic. This will cost them thousands of votes. We'll be back in just a moment here on GB News.